It's 11:57. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media with me, Mara Mukwanda. It is Teen Suicide Prevention Week, and on this segment with Islamic Care Line, Suhayfa Mahomed joins me to give us insight on the leading causes of teen suicide and what parents and family members need to take note of. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sister Suhayfa. Shukran for joining me.
Walaikum salam and jazakallah for having me on the show.
Right, first of all, I think we should start off by defining what a suicide is. So, what is suicide and what do we know about it?
Okay, so suicide is basically just the act of somebody taking their own life. So you get suicide ideation as well, which is somebody who's thinking about killing themselves or committing suicide, but that doesn't necessarily lead to the act of suicide. So suicide is actually carrying out the act of, taking your own life.
All right, and what are the leading causes of teen suicide in South Africa?
Okay, well, I think the leading causes in South Africa would probably be quite global as well. So, so I think some of the leading causes would be, I think especially during this time, due to the pandemic, would be things like isolation from friends, especially considering the fact that, children don't necessarily go to school and they're doing online classes. So that has caused a lot of isolation. The family members, especially now during the pandemic. Then there's also, problems that children are experiencing at home, such as abuse, divorce, parents who have mental health problems. And I think the pandemic is also exacerbating that problem because they're spending a lot more time at home and are being exposed, to these situations a lot more frequently. And it also causes that sense of feeling trapped and unable to escape and having no security because of that sense of isolation. Then there are also other things like, the breakup with the boyfriend or girlfriend. And now also, matric results. Sometimes when teenagers, they find out that maybe they didn't do as well as they would have liked, or sometimes if they failed, just that, experiencing a sense of shame and disappointment in themselves and feeling that they're going to disappoint other people, and also not knowing, what's going to happen to their life afterwards, and feeling, that their dreams have been crushed and they might not, have the kind of employment opportunities that they would have liked. Then there's also bullying, which is a very big problem. But I think we all know that getting bullied is a risk factor for a lot of children, but I think a lot of people don't realize that the children that bully are also at risk for suicide. So yeah, I think those are probably like the main causes.
Mm-hmm. What is the age group that have shown the highest suicide rates?
The age group, I think the age group is actually dropping. Initially probably would have been late teens, but now we're seeing children as young as 9 and 10 years old who are, attempting suicide, committing suicide. So yeah, so we actually got really pinpointed because that age category it's declining now. So there's even children, who are preteens who have, taken their own lives, and a lot of the time it's caused by bullying and situations where they feel like there's no way out of it.
All right, so we know what are the leading causes of suicide, but what are the warning signs that we need to be aware of?
Okay. So I think the main warning sign could be, making suicidal statements. So they will say things like, oh, you don't die, you don't have to worry about me, I'm not going to be a problem, or I wish I was dead, or it'd be better off without me. So anything that even hints at the fact that are they thinking about taking their own lives? That's really a sign that they're thinking about suicide. So being preoccupied with death in conversation, in writing, in drawing, giving away, especially prized possessions, um, calling people up to say goodbye to them. These things like withdrawing from friends and family members and isolating themselves. There's also, having very aggressive and hostile behaviors. Then there's also things like, the increased use of substance abuse, um, even, alcohol abuse as well. These feelings of being trapped and feeling like there's no way out of the current situation, whatever that might be. These feelings of hopelessness, uncontrolled anger and rage, acting recklessly and impulsively, and having dramatic mood swings. But then, we also need to understand that, depression, like the signs of depression are also signs of suicide as well. So if somebody's experiencing depression, very often they will also start to think about suicide. And we know that people who are depressed, they often do commit suicide as well. And the signs of depression would include loss of interest in activities that they used to enjoy before, changes in eating and sleeping patterns, so eating more or eating less, sleeping more, sleeping less, feeling very sad, empty, fearful, again, those feelings of hopelessness and helplessness, difficulty in thinking and concentrating. And there's also physical symptoms such as headaches, stomach aches, and fatigue. There are signs of depression as well.
Mhm. What makes teens vulnerable to suicide?
Um, okay, so there's a few things that make them vulnerable. Um, the one thing, as you mentioned, is a mood disorder such as depression, also a trauma or stress-related disorder. Previous suicide attempts make them very vulnerable. So if they have tried to commit suicide before, there's a very good chance that they will attempt it again in the future. Also, being a witness to somebody who's committed suicide or having a past history of family members who have committed suicide. Um, there's also, and I think this is something that's become quite common, but the struggle with their sexual orientation, and especially if they feel like they're in an environment that doesn't accept them. Um, then there's the lack of social support. So if they don't feel like they have a significant adult in their life that they can turn to, or friends that are supportive of them, and this will make them feel very isolated, and it makes them feel like they have no way out of their problems. So that obviously makes them more vulnerable. Having access to lethal means, so making it easy for them to actually take their own lives, having access to firearms and pills. Then there's also the barriers to accessing, for example, mental health services. So if they have difficulties in getting services, for example, having unreliable transportation or like lacking the financial means to access those services, or even not having somebody who speaks the language that they're comfortable speaking in, who can give them the help that they need. So these are all risk factors for a teenager.
All right. What do you do if you suspect your teen or a friend might be contemplating suicide?
Okay, so I think the first thing that you need to do is to confront them about it. Speak to them
Hmm.
and ask them directly if they are thinking of taking their own life. And I think a lot of people feel that by bringing the topic up so directly would, actually put that thought into their head and make it more likely that they will commit suicide. But it's actually just a myth. And bringing it up again shows them that they have somebody safe to talk to and allows them to feel a lot more understood. So yes, that's the first thing that you can do as a parent, if anybody actually, you want to express empathy and use statements like, it sounds like this is very difficult, or I know how painful that can be. So, just expressing empathy, avoiding judgmental statements, um, validating how they're feeling. Um, as a parent, I mean, we say the one objective factor um, for children is, the fact that they feel loved and supported. So, some parents think that children know that they're loved, but for children, it's not always as obvious, especially they experience a lot of conflict a lot. You express it verbally, but also show them in a lot of ways that you do love them, in whatever way, um, that you can, spend quality time with them, um, do activities that they enjoy with them, make them a priority in your life. So you need to show them that you do care about them, that you do love them.
Mm-hmm.
Be able to prioritize the positivity in your life. Um, because I think a lot of the time, parents get caught up in this vicious cycle and they become very critical of their children. Um, and they'll do something concerning and parents will become upset. So, just being able to prioritize, positive interactions with them. And again, doing things like fun with them, chatting with them about things that are, you know, fun and not controversial or difficult topics. And trying to minimize the conflict that you have in the child. But also in the same touch and, monitor your child's whereabouts, whether it's online or outside of the house. You want to keep in touch with friends, with their teachers, stay in touch with school, partner with the school, just to help to keep an eye on their child at any time, and get to know your child's feelings. And then, of course, like the most important thing, especially if we've made it clear that they are thinking about suicide, is to get them the proper therapeutic help. And, to let them know that, getting help is not a weakness and it's actually a sign of strength, and encourage them to get that help and um, to participate in. But then also, as, the family members to get involved yourself, but also do your own therapy, have family sessions yourself, to let your child know what you do and to help you to cope better with the situation and also um, to know how to deal with your child if anything does happen. And of course, you want to take emergency measures. So if you do feel that your child is, at immediate risk of committing suicide, to call emergency services or to take them to the hospital and, to make sure that they get able to take away any useful objects that they might find, such as new weapons or clothes that they might take. Yeah.
Oh, now, as much as you can support your kids, as much as you can be there for them, in some religions and cultures, suicide is a taboo topic. So, how do we openly talk about it with our kids? How do we make it part of the dinner table conversations?
That's a very interesting question. And like you say, it's a very uncomfortable topic
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people. And, and like I said, a lot of stigma around suicide. And I think maybe a good way to bring up the topic would be maybe to talk about a news item. I mean, there's been a lot of cases of children taking their own lives, due to bullying or other instances. So you could bring that up and not talk about it in a very indirect way. And that makes it a lot more comfortable. And, that could be a point for you to ask your children, like, if they ever thought about it, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
it also helps, to have that open, connected relationship with your child beforehand. So I think it's not just about being able to bring up the topic of suicide, but to know that, your child feels comfortable enough to turn to you if they are experiencing any difficulties. So, they need to know what they can trust you. So, turn to you for support and, just to maintain that relationship. Um, regardless of the circumstances. So,
Hmm. And the numbers of suicide rates per day is about 20 to 25. How, that means that at least 20 to 25% of confirmed suicide cases per day, and those numbers are very high. How do we get these numbers to drop? What can we all do to prevent teen suicide?
um, okay, well, I think the first thing we can do is to reduce the stigma around it and the time the reason why these people end up taking it, they feel like they have nobody to turn to them. They're suffering in silence, they're experiencing depression, and they feel like, people are just going to either be dismissive of them or um, be judgmental of what they're going through, and they don't feel supported. So if people can start to feel like, it's okay for me to open up about what I'm experiencing, even if it's just to friends and family members, I think that will go a long way in reducing those numbers. And also making it clear to them that since the e-health is available to them, that there are organizations that that they can call into and that can help them with the individuals that they're experiencing. I think they need to know that they're not alone, um, and that there's always help available to them. So,
All right, Suhaifa, and final thoughts and advice going forward.
um, well, the thing is, very often people do take their own lives. And we've spoken about the signs of suicide, but often people will say, what, there were no signs. That person seems perfectly okay. They were happy, they were successful. And very often people who are suffering from depression will put on this brave face and pretend to be okay. And people don't know that they are actually suffering. And when it comes to a case like this, it's not always easy to know how to help someone. And I think, um, because of this particular factor, we need to understand that we always need to be kind. We always need to be supportive of other people. We always need to let other people know that, what, I'm here for you if you ever need to turn to me. And, just like again, just try and break that stigma around mental illness and mental health and, um, just become more empathic towards people under all circumstances. And we never know if it's just, a kind word or a smile to a stranger that could, um, you know, uh, allow them to feel like, what, I don't want to take my life anymore. So,
Mhm.
general kindness.
All right. Shukran so much for your time, Suhaifa, and for the enlightenment. And hopefully, our listeners, especially the parents, will learn and be aware of the warning signs. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, well, thanks a lot.
That was Suhayfa Mohammed from Islamic Care Line taking us through the leading causes of teen suicide and what parents and family members need to take note of. You can share your comments in the comment section. Send us on WhatsApp. The number is 061 766 0355. Please stay with us.